We search for better performance everywhere. Well, not there, but here, and here, and even here. All this and much more on today's Performance TV.
Of Performance TV, and we're going to talk about a very simple way to fix a common problem in a lot of different vehicles, especially some of the older vehicles, and that is problems with the heating and air conditioning. And Chris Allen with Heater Treater, you've got a real simple way to fix those things. But first, tell me, how does an HVAC system work in a vehicle like we see here?
Okay, this simulation is kind of give you an overview of how an HVAC system works, and you'll see the airflow coming into the plenum box and flowing through the AC evaporator core. The core is connected to the compressor on the engine, and when the compressor is off, it's a neutral element with neutral air coming through. You get AC when the compressor is on and cool down the evaporator core. The heater core is connected to radiator fluid, and as the engine warms up, that becomes hot. The blend door, which is connected to an actuator motor, diverts the air through the heater core. So to get heat in the system, we'll turn the AC evaporator core off and divert air through the heater core. The problem with the system comes in with the actuator motor that's controlling that little blend door. It has way too much torque for the system, and over time that door will break off. Heater Treater has a method to come in through the plenum box, remove the broken plastic door, and replace it with a steel Heater Treater door. And this will be a complete repair to the system with better sealing, better AC, better heat.
You know, a lot of guys, you're out there, you're towing your cars to the track, you're towing your boats, you're using your truck to run around town and pick up stuff or whatever. So this gentleman here that has this particular F-150, well, he's got the problem.
F-150 does have a very common problem with this failure, and the components that we make are made in two parts so that the door can be installed, and then the axle that connects to the motor come in from the end, and we have complete written instructions with photos and videos online. So it's a relatively easy fix for a very expensive problem, and something that's very annoying when you don't have heat and AC.
All right, guys, real simple to get started on this. The first thing you want to do is right in front of the shifter here is you want to go ahead and remove this panel, which is pretty easy to get off in here. To get this out of here and move on to the next step, which is to remove this bracket here, which is just a couple of screws, our 8mm here. Get our 10mm on down here. We can get this out of the way. Take out a screw on each side here, and we're going to get this out of the way so we can get to the heater motor back here. Get our 3 screws out, undo our heater motor controller, and just drop this down. Now we're ready for Chris to come in, where he's going to start working over here.
When you fully open the glove box, there's a gray plastic piece behind the box. It really has no function. We have to cut this out of the way to get to the box. Most customers choose not to replace this after the cut. Now we're going to make the actual cut into the plenum box, and you'll notice we have a tongue and groove in bottom. We'll leave that in place and just cut on 3 sides. After making the cut, there are 2 screws still holding this in place. So we're going to remove those 2 screws, and that will loosen the flap that we're taking out of the vehicle. And we've gotten access to the plenum box, and we can get to the blend door in order to replace the door.
What we're going to do is, now everything's unhooked in here, we're going to reach in, pull the old flap out. Now you can see this is definitely pretty flimsy and grimy. Big difference in how this one's been constructed, the Heater Treater. This is actually 2 parts here, so what we're going to do is pull the bottom out. This is going to slide in, tuck up underneath. We're going to take this piece here, come up underneath, and go back in just like this. Now what we want to do is we want to get the heater motor put back up. It's got 3 screws. Get it plugged back in and make sure this works back and forth just like it should. And now that we have our Heater Treater installed, we've got our heater motor put back up. We're just going to reconnect the wires, come over here and turn the key on. And what we want to do is we want to verify that it actually moves back and forth, which is very simple. All you need to do is to turn your temperature control back and forth, and you can see that it's actually got movement. And if you were wondering what this might have been for in your kit, this metal duct tape, well, now what we want to do is we want to get our heater box sealed back up. So we're just going to take the piece that we have cut out, get it sealed up. We'll be able to get this thing right back together. Well, now that we have this F-150 fixed here, which we heard from Chris actually at the beginning of the show that these trucks do have a lot of problems with this, but Heater Treater also has something for a lot of different makes and models. And Brad, you can tell us about that.
Well, that's true. We also have kits available for Dodge, Jeeps, Fords, and Chevys.
And what about a new product I heard you guys have coming out? A universal piece?
That's true. We have a universal kit. It's going to be easier to install than the heater treater itself, and look out for it in the next couple of months, and it should be ready to go soon.
Easy to install. We like to hear that. And, you know, I don't want to keep making it easy on Tommy, though, and I think it's about time that he got to work. So when we come back, we are going to put Tommy to work and see what he's got for us.
This edition of Performance TV, presented by Lokar Performance Products, is being brought to you by The Little Power Shop. We will not be undersold. And by Power Curve, metal and fuel treatments. And by ARP, the world leader in fastener technology.
Welcome back to Performance TV. A lot of times when you make performance enhancement to a vehicle, you run into problems you didn't expect. This big Power Stroke Ford diesel has a new cold air intake, a reprogrammed computer, and exhaust system. Problem is, now we're running into under load, high exhaust temperatures. The intercooler can't keep up. I'm with John from Little Power Shop today. He's brought a new intercooler that's going to solve that problem. John, how are we going to lower the exhaust temperatures?
Basically, this intercooler, it's a larger unit, so it's going to pass air through it more efficiently, and it'll also let more flow through. Where this unit gets bottlenecked up, it's causing a restriction. This will pass through. We won't lose any boost pressure through the intercooler, and this unit will lower the exhaust gas temperature somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 to 400 degrees.
This was able to keep up when it was stock.
You've basically doubled the horsepower and torque of this vehicle, so we need to cool it back down to be able to use that power.
Perfect, let's get started. John, I noticed you brought bigger clamps with you. Why the bigger clamps? I see some different hoses. Why is all the bigger stuff?
This truck's pushing more boost than it was stock. We need something a little bit heftier to keep all that inside.
Some of these installs I've seen take a while. This seems like it might not be too bad.
Nah, you could hour and a half, you can bang it right out in your driveway. No big deal.
He says it's like no big deal. Hope it's no big deal for me.
You'll be all right.
I thought we were replacing this intercooler. Now you're taking the top brace off. Why?
Well, actually, we got to remove this so we can replace the intercooler pipe over on this side.
Right here?
It won't do us any good to upgrade this to get more air through it with the smashed Ford factory one in there.
Oh, you can see, yeah. I can see where it's really smashed down.
Yep.
The new one's much bigger.
Yep, so for factory horsepower again, this worked great, but we're bigger, better.
Hey, I like it.
Twice the flow for twice the power.
All right, what are you doing underneath, John?
Loosening the clamps for the lower intercooler boot. This is basically the outlet of the intercooler that lets the air go back to the engine. And that clamp definitely needs replaced. Good thing we have new ones.
All right, now we've got all the bolts loose, got the intercooler loose, all the bolts for the top brace. Now we got to remove the hoses and pull it out?
Yeah, we just got to slide this hose to the back here. So it basically will release the intercooler. And then this baby should come right out of here.
Now we're going to pull this out?
Yep, we'll just lift it up and set it aside here. Got it.
Perfect. Just set it down?
Yep, just let it lay like that.
All right, now
We can make this pipe out of there. And there we can see why we're replacing that baby.
That's a big restriction. Now we've got everything removed. It's time to install new. We've got the stronger and thicker rubber hoses for the increased flow, bigger clamps, and John, you've got a bigger pipe.
That's right. We saw the stock one. We know why we're replacing this. This is obviously a full mandrel bent pipe. And the great thing about this MBRP pipe, it also comes with two fittings on it. If you want to put water injection, nitrous, a thermocouple to measure temperature, anything, they already have the ports installed for you.
All right, now we're going to reinstall the top brace.
Yep, we'll just set it up here, just kind of loose till we get the intercooler in. That way we can see what kind of modification we need to make to that side over there.
All right, time to put the new intercooler in.
Yep. This BD intercooler is way heavier than that stock one.
I noticed that. That's why I'm letting you handle it. One of the only modifications you have to do for this conversion is to notch this out a little bit. As you saw John grinding this out to make the new intercooler pipe fit. Now it's a bigger pipe. Had to open this up a little bit to make room. Then I used the Guard Air, my new favorite tool, air vacuum, to vacuum up all the shavings. And now we're ready to install this top brace back on. Ready, John?
All right, let's do it.
Perfect.
Just like that.
That's easy enough.
No problem.
Now we're going to start putting on the hoses, finish tightening everything up, install the new intercooler right back into the stock mounts, and we should be good to go here shortly. All right, I think everything is tight, back in its place. Now that is a conversion anybody can do at home. John, what do you say we slam the hood on this thing, go take it for a drive?
Let's do it.
Eat your heart out, Kathy. We'll be right back with more Performance TV.
This week's ARP quarter mile quiz question comes from Paul in Florida. Paul wants to know what's the difference between driving an old style funny car and a new funny car.
That's a good question, Paul, because I've got an opportunity to do both. I drove the Chi-Town Hustler way back in the 1980s, and then I drove a 320-mile-an-hour Nitro funny car just a few years ago. And I'll tell you, although the new funny cars are faster, they actually handle better, and it's the shape of the bodies. It creates a tremendous amount of downforce, and they can be kind of a beast every once in a while if it drops a cylinder or loses traction, but they actually feel much more stable at 320 miles an hour than the old Nitro funny cars felt at, say, 250.
If you have a question for the ARP quarter mile quiz, send it to the address on the screen. If your question is used, then you'll receive an ARP quarter mile quiz shirt.
Whether you have a gas motor, whether you have diesel, if you have a motor and machine parts or anything like that, moving parts at all, you need to hear about this product line, Power Curve. And tell me about some of your products here and how they work.
Okay, if anything to do with machinery, we covered it. This is our XP12, which is a metal treatment that goes in any lubricating fluid. Doesn't change the viscosity of the fluid, doesn't change the additive package that's in the fluid from the refiner. That being said, it can be used in any lubricating fluid. Drops temperatures, reduces friction by at least 75%.
Wow, that's amazing. And there's a lot of diesels out on the highway and more all the time. Tell me about what you have here, Will.
Okay, this is our Diesel XP, the fuel conditioner. It has a little bit of the XP12 in it to add lubricity back into the fuel. We deal with the water differently than anyone else does.
Right.
We actually microemulsify the water, break it down below 500 nanometers, coat it with a lubricant, and run it on into the combustion chamber.
Wow.
With it being that small, it doesn't hurt any of the injection system.
Now, what about the folks that are running the biodiesels and things like it? Helping out with it all with algae?
Absolutely, because the algae is a big problem, not only biodiesel, but petroleum diesel, because the water that's in the diesel fuel, regardless of where it comes from. That's where we microemulsify and really help things out.
And then mention, whether you have an automobile or a truck or whatever, or even marine, and you actually have a couple of products here that are very similar, but one being for your everyday vehicle and one for marine.
Right, the problem marine industry is having right now is with the ethanol. Ethanol is really tearing up things. Ethanol etches metal. It just dries things out. This actually encapsulates the ethanol, keeps it from doing damage to the primary fuel system. Also stabilizes it because it'll double your shelf life on your gasoline.
Oh, I like that.
The gas booster is an octane boost. It also deals with the ethanol same way. It lubricates and extends the shelf life on your gasoline again.
And what else do we have here, Will?
The MXP is for motorcycles. It's based on the XP12. It's just made for higher revving, higher stress engines. The marine product, Marine XP, is made for higher moisture content. So
Makes
obviously
sense.
in marine you're going to have
Right.
that. Okay, our XP 7000 is a cleaner that's used in the gas tank on regular intervals to keep the fuel system clean.
Pretty much cover it all here. What about something for air conditioning? Can you help us out
We
there?
have an XP AC. Okay, this actually takes the friction out of the compressor on the air conditioner. We can lower vent temperatures by at least 10 degrees.
Wow.
Kathy,
I think you could use that.
this truck's air conditioning doesn't work. Will, could you fix me up with a little of that on this truck right now?
I believe we can fix you up right there.
Well, 71, and 1.5. Let's see what Will can do for us. I don't know what he's doing out there, but it's getting better. It's getting cooler quicker. It's dropping. It's dropping. It's dropping. It's dropping. Wow. Now that's pretty impressive. Look at that thing, still dropping. Still dropping. I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed. When I fired up the air on this thing, it started off about 68, 69 degrees, dropped down to 67, 65. Will did his thing. Right now, it's down to 44.5 degrees. I'm pretty impressed with this. 43, still going. Got any meat you want to freeze?
One of the guys who's been in the hot rod industry for years but has really started to make a name for himself in custom rods is Chris Sondels from Woody's Hot Rod.
It was my dad's hobby that I turned into a business early on, and believe it or not, we're celebrating our 10th year.
And I know in the last couple of years you've really taken off, in particular with an award-winning 57 that you built for George Poteet. Tell us more about that car.
He allowed us to build the 57 Chevy that I wanted to build, that he also wanted to build. We kind of melded the ideas together. Eric Brockmeyer drew the car based on our ideas, and then we executed. We debuted the car at the Grand National Roadster Show in California and walked away with the Chip Foose Award of Design Excellence, which is a nice little piece of hardware to take home. Then the car was featured on the cover of Street Rodder magazine, and in the middle of the summer in the tour schedule, we were named Carcraft Magazine's Pro Builders of the Year.
What makes a Woody's Hot Rod?
Every builder has their own thing, and God bless them all. But ours is not to be in your face. Ours is, I'd like a customer or a patron to walk by 2 or 3 times before they realize what we did. So typically what we'll do is we'll take the stock body and we'll accentuate it. We've lengthened a fender by 1/4 inch, reduced the height of a roof by 3/4 of an inch. Just things that, unless it was sitting beside a stock one, you'd never see happen.
What's next for you?
My love has always been Tri-5 Chevys. We have the opportunity now, because of these, to produce brand new 55 and 57 Chevrolets. A lot of people are not ordering parts anymore. They want done cars.
Yep.
So my goal, in simple, is to be a manufacturer of 55 and 57 Chevrolet turnkey cars.
He's going to be the legend of Tri-5s. He's Chris Sondels, and this is his car life.
This edition of Performance TV, presented by Low Car Performance Products, is being brought to you by Quiet Ride Solutions. The coolest cars have Quiet Ride inside. And by Custom Diesel, best USA-made diesel parts. And by Heater Treater, automotive heater and AC repair.
Welcome back to Performance TV. We just saw that amazing demonstration. That was pretty chilly in there with the air conditioning and what you were able to do with the Power Curve stuff. What I would like to see is this amazing demonstration that you have here to talk about the base product of Power Curve that's actually in all the whole line here. Will, can you show me this stuff here?
Sure. We'll start this with some basic motor oil, just some regular 2050 straight motor oil.
And what actually are we going to be seeing here?
This is showing metal to metal against each other with the straight motor oil in a bath. You'll also see for every pound of pressure put on this torque wrench puts 100 pounds of pressure down here.
Okay.
The ammeter will show how much power it takes to overcome the friction that's generated.
Yeah, this is brand new, fresh motor oil.
Fresh motor oil. Typically about right there, that's about 1,500 pounds of pressure. It goes away, but if you notice the ammeter, how much power it takes to overcome that friction.
Not only that, but the sound that it's making, it's not a pleasant sound, and the fact that we even had a little smoke rolling off there too.
Normally it's too late if you hear that.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, so this is what it's done to that bearing. See how rough that bearing surface is?
Yeah, it is.
How sharp the edges are?
Yep.
Okay, and that's warm too. So what we'll do is we'll put a little bit of our XP12. This is our metal treatment. We only need just a couple drops.
Yeah, how much do we use for this to treat other things?
Typically an ounce per quart. The directions are on the bottle.
Yeah, we just have a couple of drops in there.
We'll go back with same damaged bearing. Now at about 160 degrees, the pores in the metal start to open up, and when they do, this actually penetrates into the metal and stops your wear. Normally, right there is where the motor oil quits. Okay, but as you build into it, so you notice the ammeter hadn't moved. I've got
No,
3 or 4
it hasn't.
times the pressure on it.
It hasn't moved. We're not hearing the sound down here.
You got to pull it pretty good to get that full
Yeah,
pressure
and the
on it.
ammeter was clean up here on 8 before, and we were nowhere near that.
So I've taken at least 75% of the friction out of that surface. If you notice what I've done to that bearing
It's smooth.
polished and smooth. So I've literally stopped the wear. Now, you think that's nice. Well, look at this. Every time an engine manufacturer says anything about wear, they always tell you the worst thing you can do to your engine is start it. It's called a dry start. But if you're protected with Power Curve, you have no dry starts because it is in the metal. If you notice that bearing,
Still polished,
still polished,
not rough.
and it's cool.
Wow.
Okay. Now we'll take a little bit of brake clean, just to demonstrate. Give it a shot of brake clean on that wheel.
Anything else, it would take right off there.
Anything else takes it off. But if you notice, it's in the metal. So,
Wow, that is really, really neat.
and it's still cool, still polished.
Yeah, it is. And this, what you just showed us here, is what all of the rest of your line is based off of.
It's a base product for all the lines. There's a little bit in every bit of it.
Now, when it comes to the diesel, you actually took it a little step further, though.
Right, and I can take the diesel and do the same demonstration. It actually has a better lubricating quality than motor oil. So anybody that's putting diesel XP into their fuel is actually safer than people who are using two-stroke oil or motor oil or transmission fluid or any of that kind of stuff that they do for lubricity. This is actually made for it. Plus, that bottle there treats 338 gallons.
That's quite a bit for a bottle this size. Well, I tell you what, thoroughly impressed with your entire line here, what you were able to do with the air conditioning, what little you were able to show us of your extensive line here. And if folks want to find out more, well, where can they do so?
PowerCurve.net.